sponsored visa. So I've got along with me my teammates, Weber from Sydney office. He's a registered migration agent at Sydney office branch. And I've got Parth Patel from Melbourne office. And I've got Tejas Patel from Adelaide office. And I've got Preeti Puri from Perth office. So thank you so much for joining, everybody. I'm glad to see you all in this session. And I'm sure anybody who's watching this video will get some good knowledge about the employer-sponsored visas. And I would appreciate if you can share this video with your friends who, anybody who wants some more information about the employer-sponsored visas. So today, the topic we are going to discuss would be the different categories of employer-sponsored visas. First topic, we will be considering 482, which is temporary skill shortage visa, and the training visa as well, 407, and 186, which is employer nomination scheme. And we will be discussing about the DAMA, which is designated area migration agreement, that's only in specific areas of Australia, like if you're living in Victoria, Warrnambool, or if New South Wales, Orana, and if in Queensland, Cairns area, and Perth areas, in WA, nearby areas to the Perth for DAMA. So I'll probably wait for a bit to see if more people can join the session, and we can start off the information about the employer-sponsored visas. So how's the weather up there in Western Australia, Preeti? Do you mind me asking there?
All right. So hello, everyone. The weather here is a bit of a raining today, and Diwali looks like we would be there inside with the rain, but we do pray for the God so that we can go out and have some, all the crackers and everything for the kids.
Great.
It's a wet season, which is apparently very different for a Diwali day,
That's right.
And happy Diwali to you all.
Good on you, Preeti. I would like to congratulate all of you who are watching this video. Special Diwali, happy Diwali to all of you from Aussizz Group, from the entire Aussizz Group, and especially 5 of us who have joined this session to give this information to you. So happy Diwali to all of you. So I guess, guys, let's get started for the employer-sponsored visa. The first category we're going to discuss today would be the training visa, which is subclass 407. So for this category, Preeti, I'll be coming to you to ask you some more information about this category. Can you explain what's the requirement, or how this process works, or what could be the benefit of anybody who applies for this visa? If you can share the information, that would be great, please.
All right. Thanks, Prince. And hello, everyone. Again, I will be talking about the 407 visa. This is apparently known as a training visa. It's again a part of the employer-sponsored visa, but sometimes, how the employer said that they're happy to sponsor, but with a lesser obligation, where the requirements of the employer is on a bit of a lesser side and all, then you can always approach for this one. This visa is basically one of the major stream where most of you are interested into. I will be talking about that stream, and that is called enhancing the skills, right? This stream is for the people where, let's say, you are not meeting the requirement for a 482 visa, or you need some time to enhance your skills, and or you need to have a registration for some medical purposes, like the nurses need time to have a registration and all. This is the fantastic visa, and this meets the requirement for these. The first and the foremost requirement is that you need an employer where he's happy to put you on a training. This training, a lot of people think that whenever it comes to a training, there must be a college involved in it. There must be something like where you have to go and sit and have a classroom kind of a training. No, it's not. It is something that you're going for a job every day. You're still doing that, but under a supervision of your someone from your employee side only, from someone from your work environment. So there is a trainer, there is your supervisor, there is your employer, or anybody you could say is considered as your trainer, and then you undergo a training. This training visa can be from anything between 6 months to 18 months to 2 years, depending upon the kind of a training plan you submitted to the department, that what kind of skills you are going to enhance. Let's say, like, for example, I am very raw at my skills. I could say that, yeah, I don't have much experience. Then I could go within 18 months of a training plan, which is again good. The first thing I was talking about is the employer requirement, where you need to still have to have an SBS. This SBS is different to the 482. You need to have a separate SBS for a training visa. Then the step 2 in this one is a nomination, where the employer nominates that who undergoes the training. For this one, the employer requirement is that they need to have a trainer. They need to, and that trainer can be anybody whom you are going to report to in your day-to-day activities. And we need to provide the details of that. It can be a resume, and he or she must be having some knowledge and experience into that field so that he can supervise your work. For example, if we are going with a training plan for a chef, then even a restaurant manager or a head chef or anyone who is operating this restaurant and does not have the formal qualification can also be a trainer. Then comes the third requirement, that is the visa. For this one, for the visa purposes, the applicant must have at least 1 year of an experience or must have finished the relevant studies within last 2 years from the day we are lodging this visa application. So this is basically, let's say, for example, I have done my accounting and my visa is going to expire. I have not received my expression of interest. I cannot go for a 482 visa because I don't have an experience yet. So it is a very good opportunity to go for a training visa if there's an employer who is happy to put you into the training, who is happy to make you learn the practical things of an accounting firm, or can be other than an accounting firm where the accountant does work. There's a requirement of a junior position over there. You can be working as a trainer and can enhance your skills and learn on the job training. So this is not basically something where you go for a classroom training or something. It is on the job training to enhance your skills. Same is for the registration purposes. Like, let's say, for example, we have got a nursing registration, we have got the pharmacy registration, and any medical related registrations. Few registrations have got a supervised practice, where it is to get from the provisional to the full registration. There's a supervised practice for 1 year. That is again the training visa that comes under the licensing and registration requirements for this one. The English requirement in this visa, there is the one which is the functional English, which is again the 4.5. So you do not need to meet the higher requirements like in a 494 or a 186 visa. The functional English requirement is there. Once this visa is granted, this has got the requirement that you just need to be working with the same employer in the same occupation, what has been the visa been granted for. You cannot work anywhere else because it's an employer-sponsored visa, and the purpose for this visa was the training. This can be the contract which your employer is giving, which is either for 6 months, 12 or 18 as per the training plan. Can be the paid contract, or can be an apprenticeship, or if your employer is only providing you the accommodation and the meals and all, that can also be covered into the contract. In case you are not being paid for this one, then it is highly recommended that you need to show your funds to make yourself sustainable, because then the officer needs to see that you will not be on the Medicare system or anything for this one. You need to maintain your health insurance in this visa, and the experience that you gain while holding your 407 visa, whether you can claim the points or whether you can claim this one to go for the next visa, which is 482 or 186, depends on lot of factors. The kind of the training plan that you have provided. For example, if your training plan is to enhance the skills from 1 year of an experience to 2 years, and you are going into the complex work of your activities, then you can definitely claim the points also. Otherwise, if you're going just for the 482 visa where you only wanted to show that you are skilled, then there's no problem, even if you did not have any previous experience into this nominated application. Right. So this was more or less about a training visa, and I would like you to throw with your questions if you have got any, and I'm happy to take those ones.
Thank you so much for the valuable information, Preeti. I appreciate it. We will start taking the questions as well. I can see a few questions popping up on my screen, but it's regarding combination of 494 visa or 482 visa, which we're going to discuss in the session later in the session. But it's a good news for all the applicants out there who, whose time's running out, or their 485 visa is about to expire, or rather than jumping onto the student visa. And especially I would say about the accountants, this is a good opportunity. This is an option for them. Rather than going on to the student visa after their 485 visa expires, they can look into this option. If they have some experience, or if they have completed their qualification within last 2 years, they can go for this option of 407 training visa, which down the track leads to other option of either 482 visa or maybe general skill migration. It could be a state sponsorship or any other visa category. I think this is a very good option for all those applicants who are struggling with the time, who haven't received the invite, who have got some experience, or even for those who haven't got much experience or any experience whatsoever. Even if you have completed 2 years, even if you have completed the qualification in the last 2 years, you can look into 407 visa. So guys, if you need any more information about 407 visa, get in touch with us. I'm just having a look at the questions. It's a couple of questions are for 482 visa, which I'll take those questions once we discuss about 482 visa and 494 visa as well. So probably I'll pass it on to Parth, who will be discussing about the 482 visa, which is a temporary skill shortage visa. So Parth, if you want to keep it quick and if you can just give a bit of overview what it is, so I can start taking the questions. And because our main motto is to provide a general overview of the visa category, and then we can answer the questions what we're getting on this live session, so people will get to know more about the specific specific cases, like how exactly they meet the requirement, or what exactly they need to do to meet the requirement of the visa. So off to you, Parth, if you want to just cover up 482 visa quickly, please go ahead.
Sure. Thanks, Prince. About 482 visa, it's a temporary skill shortage TSS visa. As the name itself suggests, it's a temporary visa to fill the shortage in Australia for the skilled people. For this visa, there are mainly three streams which possibly you can apply under. The first stream is for the occupation which are under MLTSSL, for the medium to long-term skill shortage list. The other stream is for people whose occupation is under short-term skilled occupation list. And third stream is possibly a labor agreement stream, where if employer has a specific labor agreement with the department, they can possibly apply under that stream with some exemption with the requirements. Mainly, we are going to cover the first two stream, which is if applicant is applying under medium to long-term skill shortage list. So if your skills are part of MLTSSL list, you could be able to get this visa for up to 4 years of time, and that can lead to permanent residency, which is 186 visa, which we are going to cover it soon. So if your occupation is part of MLTSSL, this visa can be granted for up to 4 years of time. You will be required to work for 3 years with the same employer, and possibly that can lead to permanent residency 186. To apply for this visa under this stream, you as an applicant require at least 2 years of experience in the nominated occupation, which is part of MLTSSL list. This 2 years of experience must be full-time experience. If it is a part-time equivalent part-time experience, that can also be considered. However, department does not consider casual employment. Secondly, this experience should be within last 5 years. However, it's not a mandatory requirement. Department says generally it should be within past 5 years of time. And if it is that experience is a part of maybe internship program, placement, or a research program, maybe for a master's course or maybe PhD course, that kind of experience can also be considered on a case-by-case basis. That's the first requirement. Second requirement is you will require English skills for this MLTSSL stream. As an applicant, require at least 5 bands each or higher in IELTS, PT, TOEFL, Cambridge, or OET. 5 exams are accepted. And you may require a skills assessment if your occupation is part of a specific list. Mainly the trade occupations are part of that list, where you will need a skills assessment for this TSS program. You may be exempted in some situations. We are not going to cover that situation as of now, but these are the basic requirements. And you need an employer which has a shortage, which needs a person who can work for them, and they are not able to find a right candidate who is Australian permanent resident or citizen. Then they can fill shortage through your skills if you are not permanent resident or citizen, and you still have that skills. Second stream we are looking at is for the people whose occupation is not part of MLTSSL list. That is, if your occupation is in low demand in Australia, that is part of STSL list, short-term skilled occupation list. In that case, you can get this visa for up to 2 years of time. The bad thing in a way is you can get 2 years of visa, you can enhance your skills for 2 years, but it doesn't lead to permanent residency through 186 visa program. So if you are going for this visa 482 visa under the occupation which is part of ST as well, you may have to look at maybe 494 a regional visa, or probably state sponsored visas which is like 190 or 491 a visa. And for this short-term skilled occupation list, the same requirements, 2 years of full-time experience requirements still exist. And for English, applicant requires at least 5 overall and 4.5 minimum in English. That's the difference. For the other stream, they require at least 5 each. There are some exemptions as well. If you don't have the required skills like the bends in IELTS or equivalent exam, equivalent score in the other exam, in that case, if you have studied 5 years in secondary schooling or higher degrees, if you have studied for 5 years, then in English medium, then that can also give you exemption for the English requirement. That's mainly about the 482 visa. Permanent residency pathway depends on whether you are choosing the first occupation, like your occupation is part of MLTSSL or STSL. That will be covered by my colleague under 186 stream.
Sure. Thank you so much for the information, Parth. Appreciate your time again. I'll probably ask you a couple of questions which has come up on the screen, Parth. The first one would be from Aki Dahia. He wants to know cafe can sponsor or not. It's in Richmond. So just to confirm, Aki, I believe that you are after a restaurant manager. If it's not the restaurant manager position you're after, because you haven't mentioned the occupation, a cafe can sponsor or not. So can you be a bit more specific? Is it regarding the restaurant manager or a chef or a cook? But regardless, any of the occupation, I will probably ask you, Parth, if you can answer this question. If it's either of these occupation, whether a cafe can sponsor for someone on 482 visa or not. It's in Richmond. I believe it's in Melbourne. It's in Melbourne, I guess, Richmond in Melbourne.
Correct. Yeah, so a cafe can sponsor a person under possibly occupation, as you said. It can be cook, chef, or a restaurant manager. However, it depends because there are some caveats for different occupation. So if it is a limited service restaurant, possibly they may not be able to sponsor you. So it depends on the operation of the business as well. As long as the business can prove that they genuinely require a restaurant manager or a cook or chef, then that is possible. If you are a restaurant manager, you have to make sure that you are managing and operating the restaurant. If that is not part of your work, then that cannot be considered. Same way, cook or chef, if you're looking at, you will have to perform the duties at a right level. And if business does not require that level of skills, it cannot be considered. But otherwise, if it is a cafe, which requires a cook, chef, or a restaurant manager, possibly if you're looking at these 3 occupations, whichever occupation you have skills under, you can possibly apply if you have 2 years of full-time or equivalent part-time experience.
Great. Thank you so much, Parth. Parth, would you mind sharing the information about the limited service restaurant? Because pretty much a lot of viewers who are watching this live session need to know about what exactly a limited service restaurant's definition is. Some of them may not know about this. So if you can please share that information, that would be great, please.
Yeah, generally for limited service restaurants, department says that if it is a restaurant which is kind of they are providing maybe fast food or takeaway food services, that is considered as a limited service restaurant. And then if it is a casual, fast-paced casual restaurant, or possibly just maybe a drinking establishment that just offer limited food services, maybe kind of a cafe, pizza shop, where doesn't require a proper cooking skills, that's where that are considered as a limited service restaurant. And if your employment or if that kind of business is there, they cannot particularly sponsor you under this occupation because there are caveats as such. And these restaurants are not part of, or generally not considered for this program in a way, because they are not providing a proper services for that occupations.
Great. Thank you so much, Parth. I've got another question from Ratha, but that's for 494 visa. Ratha, you have to wait a bit because we are going to discuss about 494 visa as well. But I'm going to take questions what we have already discussed. So it'll be regarding the 407 visa and 482 or 457 visa, which 482 is a replica of 457 visa. So we used to have 457 visa, which has been replaced by 482 visa. So Parth, I've got another question from Rajesh Jha. It's coming to you, Parth. So Rajesh wants to know, currently I'm on a 457 visa and the expiry date is 29th of December 2020. So probably by next month his 457 visa is expiring. I have resigned from current employer and looking for student visa. Moreover, I'm also searching new employer who can sponsor me. My question is, if I lodge a student visa and move on to a bridging visa, will I still keep looking for a new sponsor till the time I get my student visa grant? So I believe what he's trying to ask, his current visa, 457 visa, is expiring 29th of December 2020. He has already resigned from a position and he's looking for a new employer, but at the same time, he's also planning to apply for a student visa. So his question is, does he need to continue to look for a new employer until he gets the student visa, or what happens once he jumps onto a bridging visa, say after applying student visa? Please, if you can share that information.
Yeah, sure. Look, in this case, because you are holding 457 or 482 whichever visa, the visa condition is that you have to work with the same employer. If you are not working with the employer, generally, as I think you might be knowing, that you have to find another employer within 60 days of time. If you have already applied for a student visa, still, if you are on a 457 or 482 visa, you are still in a way breaching a condition. So I recommend that you keep looking for another employer. And if you get another employer and if you're looking at working with them full time, probably you can apply for 482 or 457 visa. But until you are still holding 457 or 482 visa, you still have to maintain your current visa condition. That's where if you're not working with the employer, I strongly recommend that you keep looking for another employer, because you may get a notice from the department saying that you are breaching your visa condition. You have been not working with the employer and it's already been this many days, something like that. So if you are at least looking for the employers, you can possibly also comment on the notice of intention to cancel your visa, saying that I'm still looking for the employer and because of so and so reason I could not find it, or whatever it is. But at least you will have something to say, and that is anyway the requirement that you have to find another employer within 60 days, so that you continue and apply for the new nomination with a new employer to continue meeting the 482 or 457 visa requirement. You have applied for another visa, but that is still not in effect. It's just that a bridging visa, but that bridging visa will only come in effect once your main visa expires. So yeah, you should.
Right, great. Thank you so much, Parth. I'm getting a lot of questions, so I'll probably cover up these questions as well. I'll just shift on to Preeti. Preeti, if you have I've got a couple of questions for you. I've got one from Gabriela and Musti. So the question from Gabriela is, as a chef, can I apply for 407 after I finish my 485 visa? And Musti wants to know what are the requirements for 407 visa. If you can share the information, Preeti, that would be great, please. Sorry, Preeti, I think you have got the mute button on. Can you just unmute yourself, please?
There we go. Thanks.
That's the one.
Okay. So let's say that you are on your 485 visa and you want to go, and that's expiring, and you want to go on your 407 visa. Yes, that is possible to go on to, and there are different aspects to look into that application. And that these are that, have you done your job ready program while holding your graduate visa or not? If you have not done the job ready program, then it is more easier to go on a 407 visa, because we could say that you are still looking into enhancing your skills and to get into the position of a chef at that point of time. Let's say that you have completed your job ready program and you still wanted to go into the 407 visa. There's a way to go out into that, and we could say that you have got the skills of a chef, but you wanted to learn the skills of a head chef in that environment. And so in this case, the employer who is going to sponsor you for a chef, with the one where you already have got a job ready program, that organization structure must be having a head chef over there, and then that is where you are getting into, and there must be a lot of people in the kitchen where you will be learning other environments into. So for example, and then you have to show how you will be enhancing your skills into that training plan will be very important, because you have already shown in your job ready program that you have learned the skills of a chef. Then probably in that case, the head chef position, the kind of the delicacies that a head chef does, that you have to put into those ones. The training plan will be a very important factor for ones who have already done the job ready program and going on to a 407 visa. But if you haven't done the job ready program, then it would be a lot easier, and even the smaller organization with just a couple of people in the kitchen, one or two, can also work out in this scenario.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much, Preeti. Can you also just cover up the question from Musti, 407 requirements, please? Like, I think what he's trying to ask is the requirement for the visa, if I'm not wrong. If you want to just recap exactly what the requirements for 407, including the employer, please.
Okay, sure. So I'll quickly recap the requirement. The first thing that the employer needs to go as an SBS, they have to apply for an SBS that they are an entity operating in Australia, and there's not much things into this, that they are just operating into Australia. They have got an ABN and they have lodged the bases and all those kind of stuff. They're trading in Australia. Then once they have got an SBS, they can apply for the nomination, or while SBS is under processing, they can apply for a nomination, for which you need an employer, and then the employer must have got the position of what they want to nominate you into. And there must be one supervisor for you who has got the skills, who can supervise you. You will be like someone whom you will be reporting to. And in the organization structure chart, you must be filling into something as an apprentice or as a trainer. Then as a visa for your requirement is that whatever occupation, because there's an occupation list into this 407, whatever occupation you are applying in for, then either you must have got a 1 year of an experience, or you must have finished the relevant studies of that occupation within last 2 years to apply for that one. And you need a functional English. If your employment contract is paid, then you don't have to show any funds. If you don't have an employment contract which is unpaid, or they're just paying you the accommodation and the meals, which is your employer for 407, then you have to show your funds also. And the health insurance also needs to be maintained. This was a quick recap for this.
Right. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thanks, Preeti. I've got one more question for you, Preeti, from Louise. She's asking, I'm a part-time accountant and has 2 years of full-time work experience, and I'm currently on a student visa. Can I apply for 407 visa?
So, and your 2 years of a full-time experience, have you worked, what kind of a work profile were you holding and in an accounting firm with the 2 years of an experience? If you could show that now you wanted to work into the complexity of an accounting work, because accounting work is not something that you can learn within 1 or 2 years or something. Let's say that you were working under an accountant as a junior accountant, and you have just done the initial setup of the companies and all that, but you haven't learned into the entities and the company setups which are into the complexity. Then you can put a training plan with a complex work of learning and accounting work, and that can also be done.
Right. Thank you.
As you said, you have got a 2 years of an experience. You can even go for a 482 visa. But yes, because accountants have got a caveat of that 1 million turnover and minimum 5 employees and all that. And if because of that you're not going for a 482 visa, then yes, 407 can be looked into. But the training plan again will be very important, what you will be learning, because you already had an experience. So you will be making a very enhanced and a complex training plan of an accountant job responsibilities, which you will be learning.
Great. Thank you so much, Preeti. I think we probably, do it a bit quicker because we've got a lot of questions coming up on my screen. So I've got a few questions for, I think, 494 visa, 186 visa as well. But guys, just hold on for a bit because we're going to discuss about this visa. Then I'll take your questions as well. But so far, what we have discussed is 407 and 482 visa. So I'm going to take the questions for 407 and 482 at the moment. And we're going to start off for 186 and 494 shortly. So Parth, I've got a question for you. Is 482 should be sponsored, or we can apply if we are eligible but not sponsored by someone? So I think what Smita Podol wants to know, do you really need someone to sponsor you, or anyone can go independently and apply for 482 visa?
Yeah, sure. So look, this is employer sponsored visa. So it's a mandatory that you need an employer who can sponsor you, and employer have to prove that they have tried looking for a candidate who is having the similar skills, who is Australian permanent resident or citizen. It's just that they are not able to find the right candidate, and that's where they wanted to nominate, they wanted to sponsor someone who got the skills, but that person does not have a valid visa or cannot work, or whatever it is. But then this is a mandatory employer sponsored visa. Name itself suggests it's employer sponsored visa, and that's where you cannot apply for permanent residency by yourself. So employer sponsored visa, all the categories which we are going to talk about today, all that visas requires employer. Only visa which doesn't require employer, If you look at any permanent residency option, that is possibly 189 skilled independent visa, which is part of GSM visa, and maybe probably global talent independent program, where also you don't need any employer. But most of the other visas, which when you are looking at, you either need employer to sponsor you or maybe state government to sponsor you.
Right. Thank you so much, Parth. I've got another question from Mehnaz Rahman. My 457 visa has been cancelled. I applied for a review. Now I have got bridging visa E with full-time work rights. Now now just asking what options I have now. Can I apply for 491 visa? I live in Gold Coast. Is the whole Gold Coast regional? So do you want to answer that, or I mean, I can take that question as well. But if Manaz, I'll take that question. Considering I'm in Brisbane, so I'm living in your state. So your 457 has been cancelled. That's pretty unfortunate. Yeah, I feel sorry that your visa got cancelled. You're currently on bridging visa E with full-time work rights, which is a positive thing because Queensland wants you to have full-time work rights if you want to apply for either 190 or for 491 visa. So it's good that you have full-time work rights. Now, if you're living in Gold Coast, it comes under regional. Once Queensland reopens in December for state nomination, you will be eligible to apply for either 190 or 491 visa. So you haven't mentioned the occupation, which occupation you're working in. But the only factor that may stop you to apply for state nomination is the cancellation you had. You may get some restriction from the state government that they may not give you the invitation until the international borders are closed, because we had some issues recently since the COVID-19 pandemic situation started, that most of the states have stopped giving invitation to the applicants with Section 48. So Section 48, like basically anybody who had a visa refusal in the past, they're not going to get the invitation, but you had a cancellation. So I believe you're in the similar boat of someone who had a refusal. So you may get this hassle or the hurdle to get the invitation from the state until the borders are closed. But once the borders are open, I'm pretty much sure you can apply for Queensland state nomination. So I hope this answers your question. Parth, sorry, I'll just hold on to the answer. The reason why I answered Mana's question, because obviously she was in Queensland. In case she has any further questions, she can get in touch with us straight away. All right, so Parth, I've got one more question for you. I have 3 years of work experience as a chef. Can I apply from Victoria? This is from Anik Shaka.
Yeah, sure. Look, if you are talking about employer-sponsored visa, yes, you can. Because as we discussed, for this visa, 482 visa, you require at least 2 years of full-time experience, which you already got. If your employer is happy to sponsor you, if they can prove, if they are saying that they are not able to find a right candidate who is PR citizen, then yes, they can sponsor you. This is one of the category which leads to permanent residency, but it will take gradually 3 years of time to apply for permanent residency under 186 transition stream. Possibly because if you got 3 years of full-time experience, then you can straight away apply for 186 direct entry, which...
Correct. So I think that is something we're going to discuss in the next session for 186 direct entry. What are the requirements? So I think, Anik, if you just wait for a bit, I mean, Parth, if you want to just discuss the option for Anik other than the direct entry. So, I mean, the other candidate can, cover up the 186 direct entry requirements, but any other option which Anik has for Victoria, like maybe a state nomination and all?
Yeah. So first option you are looking at is 482 employer-sponsored visa, which is like pathway to PR. The other visa you can possibly apply is 186 direct entry, which we are going to talk anyway in future, like in soon, few minutes. So, and apart from that, you can possibly look at state-sponsored visa, but 190 and 491 that are the part of state-sponsored visa. 190, if you look at, that is state-sponsored visa. Victoria, if you look at, they ask for 5 years of experience generally. However, the requirements may get changed. And secondly, 491 visa, for that, Victoria was asking for 1 year of full-time job offer from regional Victoria. So if you find an employer which is operating the business in regional Victoria, that is outside of Melbourne, and if they are happy to offer you a full-time job role for 1 year of time, then you can apply for Victoria state nomination with just 50 points. You don't need to have even any experience, maybe 1 year, 2 year, nothing as such, just a job offer, and you are eligible to apply. That was the requirement earlier. That program is currently kind of closed. It's not open as of now. Victoria, they are planning to open the program. They are going to hopefully announce the requirements in this month time, like most likely by November. But it looks like that they are going to, as of now, target people who are working under health related sector, which are like the occupations which are in critical shortage, or that can help in economic recovery. So most likely, looking at the current scenario, it doesn't look like Victoria is going to start the program for trade occupation maybe. So most likely you may have to wait until next year, most likely like July.
Cool. Thank you so much, Parth. Anik, we will be discussing about the other option you have in the next, shortly. I've got one more question from Sachin, Parth. He says that I have few pay slips missing from a part-time job. However, my pay package is 56K equivalent. So like your question, Sachin, is not that much clear what exactly you're after. So you got few pay slips missing from your part-time job. However, my pay is for 56K equivalent. So I don't know whether he's asking to apply for the visa or whether he's eligible to apply for visa, or are you currently on 457 visa? So can you elaborate your question a little bit more, Sachin? That will help us to understand your question and answer your question. One last thing from your side, Parth. How long does it take for the entire 482 visa process, including SPS, nomination, and visa?
Yeah, sure. Look, it depends actually, because some applicants actually apply for SBS first, wait for the approval, then they apply for nomination, wait for approval for the nomination, and then they apply for the visa application. That can take longer. SBS, generally, we have seen that it can be processed even within a week of time. It can be processed even in a day, 2 days of time. So that is pretty quick. Secondly, nomination application, if you're applying that, the processing time keep changing, but it can take in between 2 months to 4-5 months of time, depending on the business, depending on the occupation. And the visa, if you're applying at the same time, when you're applying for the nomination, then nomination can be processed at the same time your visa can be processed. So that way you can, whatever time it's taking for the nomination, as soon as it's approved, by that time your visa application should be checked by the department. So that way, if you are saying that 4-5 months of time, you can say altogether. If you are applying separately, then it may take longer than the period I have talked about. So nomination takes in between 2 to 4-5 months of time, and visa also takes around 2-3 months of time. But until nomination is not approved, they will not approve your visa as well.
Great. Thank you so much, Parth. I've got a very good comment for yourself from Anik. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much for your appreciation, Anik. These sort of comments, I would say, motivates us to provide more and more information to our clients, and that's the whole idea for doing this information session. So in case if you have any doubts in your mind, or if you want to know the eligibility criteria, so we can provide general information to all our clients who are watching this video. So thanks so much for your appreciation. Now, Preeti, I've got this question on 407 visa for you. I've got from Smith. I think the person wants to know, I was on 407 visa until March 2020. Now I'm on a student visa in commercial cookery. I have total 6 years of work experience in the kitchen. And sorry, 1 second. I have total 6 years of work experience in the kitchen in India, as well as 407 as a chef in ACT. Can I apply 190 or 491 from ACT or other states in Australia? So I believe 407 visa up till March 2020 and 6 years of experience plus 407 visa experience, and wants to know 190 or 491 is possible or not.
Right. So I would highly recommend to go for the skills assessment. And once you go for the skills assessment, get your migration points also assessed. And as per the training plan, you can give all the duties that you have undertaken during the 407 visa and see, get the points for that time frame also. Then you can use all your experience points while applying for the visa for the state nominations at that point of time. So the first thing is to go for the skills assessment. The skills assessment which you need to do, you can do without an Australian pathway, which is the pathway 1, or you can apply for the RPL and get it done, which is a recognition of prior learning, get the commercial certificate 4 in commercial cookery, and then can go for the pathway 2 also. That's the first step. Secondly, go for the migration points assessment, and then further look into any visas. You can use all of these experiences as such.
Great. Thank you so much, Preeti. I mean, I'm still getting question on my screen, so I'll probably take the session to the next level. I'll be taking the questions what are on my screen. But as I mentioned, we are getting combination of questions for 482, 407, 494, 187, 457, so everything. But let's continue the session, and I'll be taking the other questions which we haven't answered yet. So this is off to you, Tejas, from our Adelaide office. Tejas will be covering employer nomination scheme, which is 186 visa. Tejas, thank you so much for joining us again. So can you please share the information regarding 186 visa?
Thanks, Prince. Thanks for connecting us on Friday. Happy Diwali to everyone who is watching this video. Sorry, I'm just in a casual way. I'm on a leave today. I'm just covering up for someone else. In regards to 186 visa, obviously there will be three options if you talk about the 186, the employer nomination scheme. Number one option you have is the direct entry stream, where you have to have your occupation under the main medium and long-term list, as an MLTSSL list. And you have to have 3 years of experience in that area, and you have to have a skill assessment in your field, unless and until you've been exempted. There is an exemption available for very limited occupations, and you have to have 6 bands in IELTS or equivalent in PT for direct stream. So that's your direct stream entry. Obviously, you have to have an employer who can sponsor you in Australia. So quickly, you have to have 6 each, 3 years of experience and skill assessment, and employer to sponsor you if you want to talk about the direct stream entry. Then option 2 you have is the transitional stream. So anyone who is working on a 457 visa or 482 visa and have been working for 3 years now and would like to apply for the permanent visa, then they can apply through this transitional stream. The only benefit with the transitional stream is obviously you don't need the skill assessment, and you still need to meet that 6 age requirement. You still need to meet the age requirement unless you're exempt because of your occupation. There are certain occupations like medical practitioners or university lecturers and or scientists. They've been exempt for the age requirements of under 45. They can apply until 50. So if you meet the requirements for transitional stream, you can apply through that areas in 186 transitional stream. You need to have 3 years of experience on 457 or 482 visa or on a bridging visa to apply for 186 visa under the transitional stream. Now, I think everyone remembers that in 2017, the immigration changed all this 457 to 482 and everything. So if you have your visa granted before April 2017, you can still apply with 2 years of experience requirement if you talk about the transitional stream. But I'm sure it's been more than 3 years now, so there will not be a lot of applicants who would like to apply through that pathway. So that's option number 2. And then there is another option, which is option 3 as in labor agreement. So I think a lot of students, a lot of applicants have been hearing a lot about DAMA agreement, designated area migration. So there is a PR option through the DAMA 482 itself, where you can apply for your permanent residency after working for the same employer for 3 years. So obviously, Vaibhav is going to cover the DAMA agreement, but you can apply for your permanent residency through DAMA agreement after 3 years working with the same employer. Now, the biggest plus point in DAMA is obviously you don't need the skill assessment after 3 years. You don't need to meet the same English requirement as well. You have an exemption to the age as well. So I'll give the example. Let's say the aged care worker is part of the DAMA agreement in South Australia recently. So they have given exemption to age until 50. They have given the exemption for English as well. So you only need to meet the overall 5 bands in English. You don't need to meet the 6 bands in IELTS or PT to apply for the 186 through the labor agreement. So, but this occupation, so this eligibility is only for the occupation which are part of the DAMA agreement. So you have to make sure you understand the difference between the direct stream, the transitional stream, and the labor agreement stream as well. So any applicants who is going through the labor agreement, they're the only one who is getting the exemption approved, as in the lower English or the higher age and everything, right? I think that's pretty much it. These are the 3 options under the 186 here.
Right. Thank you, Tejas. Thank you so much for the information. I already have a question on my screen regarding 186 visa. So if you would like to provide the answer to this question from Akshay Nakra. He has 3 years of overseas experience plus 1 year, 9 months Australian experience as a software engineer. He already got the skill assessment done, and ACS has deducted 2 years of his overseas experience. He wants to know, am I eligible for 186 direct entry? Considering 3 years eligibility is the eligibility criteria, will the deducted 2 years experience not be counted?
Actually, you can definitely apply through 186 direct stream as long as you have 3 years experience post related qualification. So as long as you have a bachelor degree in related to your studies, as in software engineering or any ICT major studies, you can definitely go ahead and lodge your 186 direct stream as long as you have 3 years of experience. Immigration doesn't really look at how many years of experience they've actually deducted. As long as you meet the ENS requirement, that's all it matters.
Right. Thank you, Tejas. Guys, I'm getting some GSM questions on my screen as well. Obviously, this session is for employer-sponsored visas. Specifically, we are doing this session for employer-sponsored visas. So, I mean, we will answer your question in regards to GSM because I've got some questions for Victoria State nomination, ACD State nomination, and WA State nomination. I've got a few questions on my screen. So, I mean, I don't know, should we take the questions for, because we are doing this session only for employer-sponsored visas, but definitely you will get the answer. One of our representative will answer your question, but I would appreciate if you can ask the questions regarding employer-sponsored visas, because we are going to discuss options for employer-sponsored visas rather than taking the questions for general skilled migration visas. So I hope you wouldn't mind, guys, but you will get the answer as soon as possible. So moving on, the next topic would be 494 visa, which is regional sponsored migration scheme. I myself will be taking on that option, that particular visa category. So with 494 visa, I mean, I hope most of you know that we used to have RSMS, which we call our 187 visa. Like, it's not there anymore. It's been shut down since November 2019 last year, and it has been replaced from 494 visa, which is regional sponsored migration visa. Now with this visa, this is specifically for those applicants, I would say, especially retail managers. That's one of the occupation which has been hit hard from the Department of Home Affairs back in the days when we had a lot of RSMS refusal and a lot of people applied for, AAT review, or some of them may have lost the AAT and continued to the federal court applications as well. So if you've been working, so if you've been working for I'll just cover up the requirements for 494 visa. So the requirement for you to apply for a 494 visa is you must have minimum 3 years of full-time work experience. Definitely, you didn't need an employer to sponsor you. You must have minimum 3 years of full-time work experience. Plus, you need some skills assessment. Yes, you have to get the skills assessment done as well. It's pretty much similar to 186 direct entry, what my colleague Tejas just discussed. But a benefit of applying for 494 visa is that gives you a broad list, which for those occupations which are not available for under direct entry, you can look into the list for 494 visa, which is definitely, has got more occupations in the list, and that gives you an option for you to apply for 494 visa. Now, the must requirement for this is you need to have an employer in the regional area. You cannot have an employer based in metropolitan city. So you have to have an employer in regional area, and he or she wants to sponsor you for an occupation which falls under not in the list of either 482 or 186 visa, but if it falls under 494, and as I mentioned, it's a broad list. You can look for, there are a lot of occupations which are not available for any other list for any of the other employer sponsored visa, but if you look at 494, there are a lot of occupations available in that list. So as an example, I gave retail manager. So if you had a visa refusal in the past, or if you have been working in regional area, as a retail manager, and if you have 3 years of full-time work experience, this is something you can consider, and you can apply for 494 visa. And we had a lot of successful cases from Sydney, Melbourne, Perth, and Adelaide. And, we had good success with 494 visa for retail manager positions as well. And it's not only retail manager, I would say customer service manager, or maybe some of the other occupations like contract administrator and all. But, if you have had some issues or refusal in the past, but if you're still continuing working with the employer in regional area, look into the option for 494 visa. And as I mentioned, the employer must be in regional area. You must have minimum 3 years of full-time work experience, and you need a skills assessment. Plus, you need minimum 6 bands in each module of English test. As long as you meet the requirements, you can apply for 494 visa. But if you have any other questions in regard to 494 visa, please get in touch with any of your nearest Aussizz office, and we should be able to tell you whether you meet the requirement for 494 visa or not. Before I move on to the questions, I would like to mention there are 4 applications involved in the process. We need to get the regional certification body approved from the RCB, like local council, where the business is located in regional area. We need to get the RCB approved. And then it's the same process that's followed for 494 visa. We have to have a sponsorship, nomination, and visa application. So altogether, there are 4 applications in the process, including RCB. That's an additional application that goes to the local council for the particular business where you're applying for the sponsorship from. So I hope that gives you an overview of 494 visa. I'm gonna just take on to our last topic and pass it on to my colleague Weber from Sydney office. Sydney, sorry, Weber, if you can cover up DAMA, which is Designated Area Migration Agreement. If you can just give an overview, and then we will move on to the questions, and we will try to take as much questions we can. Please.
Sure. Thank you very much, Prince, and thank you very much, guys, for joining us and watching us tonight. And I won't take much time. I'll be very quick. So basically, DAMA is the Designated Area Migration Agreement. Basically, that's for the 482 visa, and that also opens up the door for a permanent residency after after you complete at least 3 years of employment with the same employer. Now, currently there are 5 or 6 DAMA agreements available, which is number 1 is Northern Territory. That was the first one to come in. Number 2, which is in Western Australia, which is in the Goldfields. Number 3 is in Victoria, which is Warrnambool. Number 4 is South Australia. South Australia has got pretty much entire state has the labor agreement in regional South Australia as well as in Adelaide City, which is really a good option because when the entire city is covered under the DAMA agreement, you have an access to unlike Sydney, let's say for example, or Brisbane or Melbourne, you can apply for a 482 visa with your employer. There are concessions available. There are in terms of English, in terms of employment experience requirements, and and I think city like Adelaide would really have a very good advantage of it. So if you're in Adelaide, you have a very good chances. Now NSW has that option as well, which is only one regional area, which is Orana. So if your business is, or if you have a sponsor which is located in a regional area in Orana, definitely you can also apply for a 482 visa under the DAMA. And the last one is in Queensland, which is far north Queensland. So it's a big area of, I think, nearby Cairns, which is covered under this agreement. So how it works is the process is quite identical to a 482, which my colleague Parth has explained. I'll quickly go through it basically. So your employer has to apply for the approval with the regional body first to be able to get an approval from that regional body that yes, they fall under this DAMA agreement and they qualify for the DAMA agreement. And once you get that agreement approved, and once you have an approval from the local body, then you apply for a sponsorship, nomination, and visa. Now in visa, generally in 482, as we mentioned before, that there is an English language requirement and there is a minimum 2 years of work experience requirement. But here, there can be, so depending on which regional area you're applying with, there are concessions available. So you might not need the entire 2 years of experience, number 1. Number 2 is that you can have an access to certain occupations which are not available either on a short-term list or on a medium long-term list or not in a regional occupation list. Like let's say, for example, if I'm not wrong, accountants, accounts officer, or a general accountant or clerk, accounts clerk as well. So let's say account clerks, truck driver, if I'm not wrong, all these occupations are available in Northern Territory, for example, under the DAMA agreement. And not only that, you can get a 482 visa. So once you get the 482 visa, you work with the employer for 3 years, and then later on you can also apply for 186 visa, which is not available in a normal 482 visa under the short-term skill list or under the medium and long-term skill list. You can still apply after 3 years, but in short-term skill list or ROL list, you cannot apply. So that's the benefit of going through the DAMA agreement if your employer is operating within the regional areas where the DAMA agreement is available. So that's all about the DAMA agreement. But if you do have any questions, please feel free to put your questions in the comment box and we can address the questions in specific way. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the information, Weber. And as I mentioned before, I'm going to discuss about, I'll be taking the questions what we are getting on our screen at the moment. So it'll be a mix and match. So I'll be asking all of you guys, and some of the question I may answer by myself. So I've got this question from Kashik. She has got 3 years of work experience as an accountant, part-time. Can I apply as an accountant under 186 ENS through a bakery? Turnover is over 2 million. So I would probably ask you, Tejas, this the question, like experience as an accountant in a bakery with a turnover of over 2 million, but the experience is part-time. So I believe a year and a half full-time work experience.
Yeah, Prince, I think there are two concerns here. Obviously, number 1 is the experience requirement. She doesn't meet that 3 years experience requirement to apply for the direct stream 186. And the number 2 is obviously the nature of the business. So when we talk about sponsoring an accountant, obviously there is a minimum requirement you have to meet. Is obviously 5 full-time employees, $1 million turnover. Let's say even if the business as a bakery has $2 million of turnover, then it comes to the nature of the employment as in genuine position as well. So normally hospitality businesses, if they are operating small level, I would say up to $5-10 million, they still don't need a full-time accountant in the business. Even if they do need, there will be a more of just a bookkeeper, not as an accountant. So there will be a question on the genuine position as well. And obviously she doesn't meet that 3 years of experience requirement for direct stream as well. So I would recommend her to go through a pathway from 407 or any other 482, a normal pathway if she meets that, and she might have to find a different employer where she meets that requirement as well.
Right. Thank you so much, Tejas. So yeah, Kashik, I think the whole idea is not just about the turnover of the business. You need to prove the genuineness of the position in the business as well. That a bakery needs a full-time accountant, who will be doing the accounting work Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, the same thing. So it's not just the turnover. There are a lot of other factors that needs to be looked into, before deciding whether it can be done or not. So I've got another question from Shashank Sharma. He has 3 years of work experience with the same employer in accounting. He already got the skill assessment. He wants to know what are the chances of getting 186 direct entry and how long it normally takes to finalize. Recently, the company sponsored an IT employee. He got the approval of the company already. So I believe he's talking about the SBS. But yeah, Tejas, back to you again. Someone with 3 years of work experience. He didn't mention if it's full-time or part-time. But if you can just share the information for someone who's got 3 years of work experience in accounting, skill assessment already there, what are the requirements for 186 direct entry, please?
The Prince, obviously he has a very good chance as long as the company meets the caveats, which is obviously $1 million turnover or more and have a 5 full-time employees. So if it's let's say software company or accounting company with, as long as they meet this requirement, as in having 5 full-time employees and more than $1 million turnover each financial year, then they have very good accounting.
Skill assessment already there. What are the requirements for 186 direct entry? Right, so
yeah, so they can definitely apply as long as they have that caveat met, as in $1 million turnover and 5 full-time employees. Sorry, so definitely you should go ahead with 186 direct entry. Average processing time, you're looking around 6 to 7 months at the moment. Obviously, this gets changed over the time. But because of the COVID, obviously, offshore applicants are pretty much on hold, except the primary skilled migration occupation list, PIMSO. So obviously the number of application under the 186 direct stream is very low at the moment. So obviously the department is trying to prioritize most of the applications as long as they're working in those critical sectors or they are working for employers from long time.
Right. Thank you so much, Tejas, for answering the question. The next question I've got for you, Parth. This is from Jagdeep Bal. Jagdeep wants to know that I'm a registered nurse with 80 points in New South Wales Regional. I will finish my 2 years of work experience in March 2021. If I will get 482 visa, when I will be able to get my PR? So assuming obviously he'll be completing 2 years of work experience in March 2021. When do you think he will be eligible for PR?
Has he mentioned any occupation? What's his
registered nurse, please?
Okay. Look, if you're a registered nurse, if you're applying for 482 visa, if you're looking for that visa, as you know, that's a temporary visa. So you will be able to get that visa for up to 4 years. In that 4 years of visa, if you work for another 1 year, that is making altogether 2 years, you are saying you will get it soon, like 2 years of full-time experience. 1 more year, if you get it on your 482 visa or any other visa option you have, so then possibly once you get 3 years of full-time experience, you can directly apply for 186 direct entry. So in that case, earliest you can possibly look at is 1 year and whatever the remaining months, that is one way. Secondly, you can also apply for 190 state-sponsored visa, New South Wales, where New South Wales, they are also prioritizing the applications for the people who are working under either health sector or maybe engineering, IT, and construction. So your application may also be given priority for New South Wales state nomination, depending on how many points you have. If it is 190, that can be quicker. That is the quickest way you can apply and get permanent residency. After that, you are targeting 186, but for that, you will have to complete 3 years of full-time experience.
Right. Thank you so much, Parth. I've got another question for similar category 482 visa. this is from Navid Metal. For 482 visa, can the applicant have less than 2 years of full-time relevant work experience, but more than 5 years of closely relevant casual work experience? So basically, I think Navid wants to know if anybody has less than 2 years of full-time work experience, but somebody has got more than 5 years of casual work experience, will it be considered or not? Can you
Okay.
share the answer, please?
Yeah, sure. Look, it's a department. They have clearly specified that if it is a casual employment, they won't be considering that. If it is a permanent or a part-time or full-time employment, at least 20 hours a week, then department can consider. So if you're saying it's a casual employment, department usually they don't consider that. And when it comes to having the requirement of 2 years of experience, there is a possibility that you can get exemption, but that is only under the labor agreement stream, where if there is any specific agreement in place in between the employer and the department, and if they have talked about having experience exemption of 2 years for requirement, then only in that case you meet the requirement. Otherwise, having the casual employment, you don't meet the requirement.
Sure. Thank you so much, Parth. So I think it's pretty clear that casual employment will not be considered. So, you have to have minimum full-time experience, or your part-time experience may be considered on a pro rata basis. There are a few more other questions I've got on my screen, so I'll be mixing and matching. So I'll probably ask the other migration agents from other state as well regarding the questions. So I keep pretty much everyone engaged rather than, just asking the question from one person regarding 482 visa. So Preeti, I wouldn't mind it, I hope you wouldn't mind answering this question for employer-sponsored visa I've got on my screen. It's from Halakaton. I have an employer who wants to sponsor me for 186 direct entry, but the company is small. I have more than 3 years of work experience as a software engineer. The company is a technology company based in Darwin. What are the chances to get the visa and nomination process?
Okay. As long as you meet the requirement of a genuine position, 186 visa doesn't mean that the company needs to be really big and need to have a lot of employees and all that. As long as you meet the requirement that there is a requirement of your position, and even if it is the one or two people working into this one, should be fine. There should not be a problem. Company needs to show that how are they going to benefit by having you, what kind of a contracts they are having, financially they are able to meet all the financial obligations that they have under the 186 of minimum salary, what they are paying you and all. You should be fine. There's no requirement of having a lot of employees or the bigger company.
Right. Thank you so much, Preeti. I've got another question from Kamlesh Zerum. Whether this is for you, what would you suggest for those applicants who got their occupation on short-term list? So how does it, help them to work out what are the best options available for them for the permanent residency? Would you recommend DAMA, labor agreement, or someone who's got their occupation on short-term? Definitely they will get the visa for 2 years. So if you can shed some more light on the occupation for short-term, please.
Sure, thanks, Prince. So yes, see, definitely, if you have an occupation on a short-term list, that does not mean that your doors for a permanent visa is closed. There are ways around it, but it's just that it requires a bit hard work. So let's say if your occupation is on a short-term skill list, and if you have at least 2 years of work experience, number one, you can go on a 482 visa with the employer who is located in a regional area, right? I'm not talking about DAMA, because DAMA reduces the chances of finding an employer, because you then limit yourself with certain regional areas only. So first option is find an employer located in any regional area, basically except Sydney, Melbourne, and Brisbane. So if you have 2 years of experience already, work with that employer for another 2 years, or let's say at least 1 year. While you are on the 482 visa with that employer, obtain your skills assessment. Once you obtain your skills assessment, then you qualify for a 494 visa, because you have already got 2 years of work experience before you obtained the 482 visa. Then you got 1 year of work experience on the 482 visa. In the meantime, you obtained your skills assessment. Now, because your employer is located in a regional area, you can get the 494 visa, which is generally granted for 5 years. Now, you work with that employer for another 3 years and earn minimum 53,900 with that employer. And after 3 years, you get 191 visa. That's your easy way to get a PR. So it sounds easy, but I understand that, finding an employer and then staying with them for 4 years, it's a long way, but there is always a way, as I said, it just requires a bit of harder work, while somebody, but see, it's not a big difference if you see, because if somebody is in Sydney, let's say, for example, or Melbourne or Brisbane, and gets an employer sponsorship, works 2 years first, gets an employer sponsorship visa for 482 visa, let's say, and then works with an employer for another 3 years, and then apply for 160 entry stream, or works for another 1 year and apply for 160 entry stream. But then they still comparatively spend, let's say, almost 3 to 4 years, Whereas if you go to a regional area through the 494 visa, you'll be spending around, let's say, 6 years or so. But then at the end, you get your end result, right? So that's the whole idea. Next, another option is the DAMA agreement. But DAMA agreement, as I mentioned, there are regional areas. These are the only options you have if your employer is located in those regional areas. Then again, you might not need the 2 years of employment if there is an option available for the waiver for work experience. But in that case, again, your employer has to be located in those areas where the DAMA agreement is available. This is actually good for the occupations where the occupation is not even available on a short-term list for a 482 or 494. Occupations like truck driver or accounts clerk, those people probably have a stronger case to go to a DAMA agreement. But I don't mean that you can't apply for a DAMA agreement if you're an accountant. So you can definitely try that way as well. But then your employer has to be located in a DAMA agreement areas. And then you apply for, again, if you need to apply for a work exemptions, you might be qualified for it. But if not, then you have to have certain work expense requirement, which is, I would generally take it as 2 years, and then get a 482 visa for up to 5 years, and then work with the employer for 3 years, and then apply for 186 under the DAMA agreement. So these are the ways you can still apply even if you're on a short-term skill occupation list.
Thank you.
Or even if your occupation is not on the short-term list and not even on a regional occupation list, you still have an option to go to DAMA.
Right. Thank you so much, Vaibhav. Since you're from New South Wales, I've got another question on my screen from Yino. Options for Baker, already done the skill assessment and has 3 years of full-time Australian work experience. Got a new job as a baker in Nowra, New South Wales Regional. I don't know where that is. You may be aware of Nowra. So
yes. So yes, I'm aware of Nowra. It's a nice place. I've been there. Basically, so if you have a skills assessment as a baker, you already have a job, as you mentioned, in the regional New South Wales. So option number one, wait for 491 to open up. If 491 opens up, you can apply for a 491, easy done. Or if you ask your employer, and if your employer is happy to sponsor for a 494 visa, we can apply for a 494 visa, which is again same as 491. The only difference is in 491, you have flexibility to work for any employer, whereas 494, you have to work with the same employer which has sponsored you. And if you want to change an employer, you have to find another employer in the same occupation, whereas in 491, you don't have to worry about those things. And you work with the employer for 3 years and apply for 191. And same with 491, where you work with any employer in the regional area, earn minimum 53,900 and apply for 191. So you have two options.
Right. Thank you so much, Vaibhav. The next question I have for Tejas, it's from Ram Shrestha. I have a positive skills assessment as a chef. Which state is better at the moment for 491 visa? So it's a $1 million question, like, anybody asking about what's the safest state at this moment for 491 visa, considering an occupation of chef with a positive skills assessment. Please, Tejas.
I would say South Australia for sure. Now, the reason I'm saying, I've just finished with the conference with the Migration Institute of Australia, and there has been a lot of discussion about DAMA programs, employer sponsored, and yesterday there were officials from department, local South Australian department. They shared a lot of statistics about how the economy is going, as in bouncing back, and there is more jobs being advertised. There are around 10% more jobs advertised in September this year than compared to 2019. So there has been good job growth as well. And because especially the job keeper or job seeker, a lot of employers are struggling to find the employees locally as well. So they're willing to sponsor people as well. They're willing to give a chance to overseas students or anyone who can work, because as we reopen from the COVID, obviously they need the workforce. And because of that lockdown period, a lot of people have left the jobs or left the employers. Now they're on a job keeper or job seeker or whatever, and they're not working for that employer anymore because of the constant payments they're getting. And obviously, Department of Immigration, as in South Australia, they definitely want to support that hospitality industry as well, just to bounce back with the labor market as in skill shortage. So watch out the space. I think in the next couple of weeks, every state authorities will be finalizing their allocations for 491 and 190 ceilings for this rest of the financial year, and then we'll see how the occupation numbers as an occupation list will be announced, but I'm pretty sure chef will be there on the list.
Great. That's good to know, Tejas. Thank you so much for sharing the information. The next question I've got from Jessica. This is for you, Preeti. I will be completing my Masters of Education by 2021 December in Perth. Under what visa will be applicable to apply? This is for Masters of Education.
Oh, the Masters of Education.
Yeah.
The first thing that you need would be the skills assessment. Unfortunately, the Masters of Education is not going to give you the skills assessment as a teacher. So probably we need to know more about your bachelor's education and something else if you can get a skills assessment. Because to apply for a 190 visa here, the teacher is in the list, but unfortunately not with the Masters of Education. We could apply for the state nomination because the skills assessment is the requirement for this purpose, and the teachers will not be getting into that.
Right. Thank you so much, Preeti. I've got this question for 482 or 407 visa. So, Parth, if you would like to take this question, please. This is from Suman Shah. Hi, I have completed my MPA, but I'm working as a chef for 2 years full time. And I have Certificate 3 and Certificate 4 in commercial cookery through RPL. Can I apply for 482 or 407 visa? What options is best for me? Sorry, Parth, it's on mute, I guess.
Yeah. So if you wanted to apply for 407 visa, as Preeti advised, applicant, that is you, require at least 1 year of full-time experience within past 2 years, or at least equivalent part-time experience, that is 2 years part-time experience within past 2 years, then you can meet the requirement for 407 visa. And if you're looking at employer-sponsored visa, 482 visa, you generally require relevant qualification plus 2 years of experience. So you got 2 years of experience, but you have to make sure that that's full-time experience or equivalent part-time experience. And in absence of qualification, department may look into this application on case-by-case basis. Otherwise, what you can do, you can wait for another 1 year of experience. And if you got 3 years of full-time experience, in that case, you are not required to, because in this case, another thing is you will also require a skills assessment, which I think you won't have. And in order to get a skills assessment, you either need to complete a job ready program, or you require at least 3 years of full-time experience in like along with your RPL qualification. Now you cannot do job ready program because you haven't actually studied in Australia. That means you'll have to go through the normal skill assessment process, which requires 3 years of full-time experience. So you will have to anyway wait for 1 more year of experience in order to get a skills assessment, because that is a mandatory requirement. There are some exemptions, but that is for specific people, and I am not sure about your details, but if you are having that exemption, possibly that's another story. But otherwise, you will need 3 years of full-time experience to get a skill assessment, and then for it to employer sponsored visa.
Well, thank you so much, Parth. Guys, we are running out of time, so I'll be quickly taking one or two questions and then we'll be going off the session. So we will answer all those questions what you have asked. Some of the questions regarding the general skill migration or state nomination I haven't picked. As I mentioned before, it's this session is about the employer-sponsored visas. So we wanted to take questions particularly related to employer-sponsored visas, but we do not want to disappoint you. Obviously, we're going to answer your questions. So have some patience. You will get the answers soon, but we won't be taking those questions in this session. I'm just picking up questions for employer-sponsored visa. So I've got this question for you, Vaibhav, if you can answer that, please. Do you see information and organization professional NEC going onto the MLTSSL list? I was previously on a 457 visa, then transferred over to a TSS visa after 457 got abolished. I'm sponsored via work and would like to know my chances of getting PR under a job code of Information and Organizational Professional NEC. This is from Dean O'Connell. So he wanted to know what are the chances of getting this occupation onto the long-term list? What are the chances of him getting a PR? So I believe at the moment it's on a short-term list because he didn't share the information or job occupation code, but I believe it's on short-term list at the moment.
Thank you very much, Prince. Dean, I believe that you have a very good potential. Probably, I assume that you had a visa, 457 visa, on 18th of April 2017 or before that time. So if you held that visa and if you're still working for the same employer, you have already met the requirement for subclass 160 RT stream. So that's the first thing that you should check, whether you held this 457 visa on or before. So you were a holder of the 457 visa on 18th of April 2017. If you were, you qualify for a subclass 1860 RT stream. That's the answer to your first question. How do you get to PR? So you just have to simply go back to your employer and try and convince them if they can sponsor, if you qualify, and if you had this visa on this date. Second option, second question you asked is whether it's likely to go on MLT SSL. I don't think so, because occupation list is not very likely to change a lot. It might change a little bit, but I'm afraid that it might not really change drastically. And this occupation, which is information and organization professional NEC, it doesn't seem to be very much probably likely to come in on the medium and long-term skill list. However, if another option that I can give you is, if your company has a branches somewhere in a regional area, you can also ask the company to see if they can transfer you to that location and then sponsor from that location for a subclass 494 visa. So there could be a way, but I'm quite confident that, because you mentioned that your 457, you had the 457 visa before it was abolished. That means you were a holder of a 457 visa on 18th of April 2017. So I'm quite confident that as long as you can convince your company to sponsor for 1860 RT stream, there are good chances that you can apply for that one. Thank you.
Right. Thank you. Thank you so much, Vaibhav. Thanks for sharing that information. Now, guys, as I mentioned, we're running out of time, so I'll be taking the last question for this evening. It's Friday. I hope I appreciate everybody's time getting on to this live session and sharing all this information and taking questions and providing all this valuable information. So this is the last question for the day, guys, and we will be replying back to all of your questions offline once we're done with the session later. So this is from Harnoor Pal Singh Virdi. He specifically wants to ask for 186 ENS direct entry. So Tejas, this is for you. I'm coming to you regarding this. Hi, I have done MSc Agriculture Research Fellow. I believe he's a MSc Agriculture Research Fellow with 3 years of work experience in India. What are the visa options? Am I eligible for 186 ENS direct entry or not? So I have to check. I'm not sure, Tejas, if you can quickly check what occupation exactly, probably maybe agriculture scientist, I guess, if I'm not wrong.
Correct. Yeah. I think so. He will be a scientist because obviously he has done PhD or research fellowship as in his field. So as long as you have got a skill assessment as an agriculture scientist and the occupation remains into the medium and long-term strategic skill shortage list, then you can definitely apply for your 186 as long as you meet the age, the English, and your skill assessment requirements, and your employer has a genuine requirements for your particular role. So obviously you have to meet that genuine position and the rest of the requirements. But yes, you can apply as long as you have 3 years of experience and you can get the skill assessment.
Right. Thank you so much, Tejas. Guys, I think this is off now because I think we have a lot of information to share. We have already provided much of the information. I'm still getting the questions on my screen. So I think it's already been more than an hour so far, taking the questions and providing the information. But we will be replying to all of your questions shortly. So just have some patience. I would like to thank you, all of you guys, for joining us for this session today. And I would like to congratulate again all of the viewers who are watching this live session. Happy Diwali once again from myself, Tejas from Adelaide, Weber from Sydney, Preeti from Perth, and Parth from the Melbourne office. So guys, thank you so much for your time today. Yeah, thanks a lot, guys, once again for joining us today. And I hope you got some good information out of this session today. And probably we'll be coming back live again like in next couple of weeks with a new topic coming in. And I wish you guys all the best and a happy Diwali in advance. Thank you very much, guys.
Thanks, Prince. Thanks, everyone.